The first time I met Kemi, she was sitting alone in the office cafeteria, picking at her jollof rice and looking like someone had stolen all happiness. I didn't know her well yet, but over time, her story unraveled like a soap opera that you couldn't stop watching even if you wanted to. Kemi had a peculiar knack for picking the wrong men. Or maybe it was just bad luck. Either way, her life seemed like a string of encounters with unavailable men, married men to be precise. And it all began in primary school. Kemi was about 9 years old when she first fell for Chidi. He was her classmate, always wearing the neatest uniform and getting the best marks in mathematics. Chidi was everything a young girl could admire. Kemi would doodle his name in the corners of her exercise books and blush whenever he smiled at her. Then one day, during recess, she overheard a group of classmates talking. "Did you hear?" one of them said. "Chidi is a prince. A girl has been betrothed to him by his parents." The words hit Kemi like a bucket of cold water. She didn't even know what being betrothed meant at the time, confused and curious. Kemi went home and approached her mother. "Mama, what does it mean when someone is betrothed?" she asked, her voice tentative. Her mother, surprised by the question, put down the vegetables she was chopping. "Betrothed means someone is promised to marry another person, usually arranged by their parents," her mother explained gently. "It's common in some families, especially royal ones." "Why do you ask?" Kemi hesitated but eventually told her mother about Chidi. Her mother chuckled softly. "Oh, my dear, you're too young to worry about such things. But now you know. If someone is betrothed, they are already spoken for." Kemi nodded, feeling a strange mix of disappointment and understanding as the word took on new meaning in her young mind. But she understood enough to know that Chidi wasn't available. Her first crush ended before it could even begin, and she moved on with a heavy heart. By the time Kemi got to secondary school, she had learned a little more about life and love. She was now in SS3, preparing for her final exams, and had set her sights on David, a quiet but intelligent boy in her class. David wasn't like the other boys. He was respectful, kind, and always willing to help Kemi with difficult math problems. Kemi was certain that David was the one. One fateful day, she decided to tell her friend Ada about her feelings. "David is so nice," Kemi gushed. "I really like him." Ada looked at her like she had just said she wanted to marry her cousin. "Kemi, you don't know." "Know what?" "David already has a wife. He is an only child, his parents arranged it. He even has a child. He's only here to finish school." Kemi's jaw dropped. "He has a child?" "Yes," Ada confirmed. "A little girl. She looks just like him." Kemi felt like the universe was playing a cruel joke on her. She stopped talking to David after that, not because he had done anything wrong, but because her heart couldn't take it. She did well during West African examination and passed her subjects. So her parents paid for JAM exams and she started a tutorial class. Kemi attended evening classes at a tutorial center and quickly developed an admiration for Musa, the best physics student in the group. Musa was sharp, confident, and had a way of explaining Newton's laws that made everyone pay attention. Kemi always made sure to sit close to him, hoping he'd notice her interest. One day, Musa did notice. He leaned over during a break and said, "Kemi, I see the way you look at me." Kemi's heart leapt. This was it. He was going to ask her out. But Musa continued, "I'm flattered, but I should tell you something." "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm married. I have 2 children. They're in the Zamfara state with my wife. I came to town just for these lessons." Kemi couldn't believe her ears. Another married man. She managed to mumble something about needing to use the restroom and walked away, her face burning with embarrassment. By the time Kemi got into university, she had developed a sort of radar for married men. Or so she thought. She shared a room with her best friend, Funk, and they often talked about their crushes on campus. One day, a lecturer proposed to Funk. Kemi was happy for her friend but secretly hoped a young lecturer would notice her too. But every time she started liking someone, whether it was a classmate or a lecturer, she would find out they were already married. There was Dr. Olimide, who always stayed late after lectures to chat with students. Kemi had a soft spot for him until she saw the wedding ring he conveniently forgot to wear in class. Then there was Connor, the tall, dark, and handsome guy in her final year project group. She discovered his secret one day when a classmate casually mentioned, "Oh, Connor's wife just gave birth again." Again? Kemi asked, stunned. "Yes, they already have twins," the classmate replied. Kemi couldn't hide her shock. She had liked Connor for months, and this revelation felt like a cruel twist of fate. Connor turned out to have not just a wife but twins. By the time Kemi graduated and started working, she was almost resigned to her fate. Love just wasn't in the cards for her, and she asked herself, why are married men everywhere? As the days unfolded at the NYSC camp, she often found herself as a silent observer to the whirlwind of emotions swirling around her. The camp was a melting pot of personalities and possibilities, and proposals seemed to bloom like wildflowers in the carefree atmosphere. She watched as other girls, their faces lit with shy smiles or delighted laughter, were approached by suitors armed with heartfelt words and daring confidence. Some of these moments played out during the campfire nights, under the glowing embers of shared excitement. While others happened quietly in corners of the parade ground, where earnest whispers replaced the day's boisterous chatter. By the time Kemi graduated and started working, she was almost resigned to her fate. Love just wasn't in the cards for her, or so she thought. But then she met Tond. Tond was the operations manager at her company. He was charming, intelligent, and always knew how to make Kemi laugh. For the first time in years, Kemi allowed herself to hope. Tond never mentioned a wife, and Kemi convinced herself that he was single. Their relationship started subtly. Tond would bring her coffee during long meetings, ask about her weekend plans, and compliment her work ethic. Kemi was smitten. But as the weeks turned into months, she began to notice little things. Tond's phone was always on silent. He never talked about his personal life. And he always avoided her questions about his family. One Friday afternoon, Kemi decided to confront him. "Tond, can I ask you something?" "Of course," he said, flashing his signature smile. "Are you married?" Tond hesitated. "It's complicated," he finally said. Kemi felt her stomach drop. "Complicated how?" "My wife and I are having issues," he admitted. "We are separated." Kemi wanted to believe him, but something didn't feel right. She decided to do a little digging and asked around discreetly. What she found out shattered her. Tond wasn't separated. He was very much married, with 3 children. His wife had even visited the office once, though Kemi hadn't been there that day. When she confronted him again, Tond tried to explain. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to lose you," he said. But it was too late. Kemi walked away, her heart broken yet again. Kemi wanted to settle down. She wanted a husband and a family of her own. But no matter how many men she met, they all had one thing in common: they were already married. The more handsome and charming they were, the quicker she'd find out they had wives waiting for them at home. She used to laugh it off at first, but as the years went by, the laughter turned to frustration. One day, she came to me. I'm her cousin, and we grew up together, so she trusted me. "Chica," she said, "why is married men everywhere? Why can't I find a man who's mine? Just mine." "Kemi, you're perfect," I told her. "It's not you." Maybe it's the men in this country. But she didn't believe me. She started withdrawing, staying home more often, and avoiding gatherings where people would ask her why she wasn't married yet. That was when the whispers started. People said she was too picky. Some said she was cursed. Others said she must have done something terrible to deserve such bad luck. Then one day, something changed. Kemi met a man named Emeka. He was new to the area, visiting from the nearby city, and he was everything she had ever wanted. Handsome, kind, and most importantly, single. They started spending time together, and for the first time in years, I saw Kemi genuinely happy. But there was something about Emeka that didn't sit right with me. He was too perfect. Too smooth. And he never stayed every weekend. I told Kemi to be careful, but she brushed me off. Not everyone is a liar, Chika, she said. Not everyone is hiding something. A few weeks later, Kemi invited me over to her house. She said she wanted to tell me something important. When I got there, she was glowing. He proposed, she said, holding out her hand to show me the ring. We're getting married. I should have been happy for her, but all I felt was dread. Something didn't feel right. Are you sure about this, Kemi? Do you really know him? She frowned. Why can't you just be happy for me? I didn't want to ruin her moment, so I kept my doubts to myself. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That night, I decided to do some digging. I asked around some joints, trying to find out more about Emeka. It wasn't long before I found what I was looking for. Emeka wasn't single. He had a wife and 2 children back in the nearby city. My heart sank. How was I going to tell Kemi? She had been through so much already. But I couldn't let her marry a man who was lying to her. The next day, I went to her house. Kemi, we need to talk, I said. She looked at me, her face full of worry. What is it? It's Emeka. He's not who you think he is. He's married. He has a family in the Oka. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she laughed. That's not funny, Chika. I'm not joking. I've spoken to people who know him. It's true. Her laughter stopped, and her face went pale. No, she said, shaking her head. You're lying. Kemi, why would I lie about this? I'm trying to protect you. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. She just sat there, staring at the floor. I wanted to comfort her, but I didn't know how. All I could do was sit with her in silence. A few days later, I heard that Kemi had gone to confront Emeka. No one knew exactly what happened, but after that, she disappeared. Late at night, people started hearing strange noises coming from her house. Some said it was the sound of crying. Others said it was laughter. But no one dared to go near. One night, I decided to check on her. I couldn't just leave her like that. When I got to her house, the door was open. I called out her name, but there was no answer. The house was dark, and the air felt heavy, like something was watching me. Then I saw her. She was sitting in the corner of the room, her back to me. Kemi, I said softly. She turned around slowly, and I gasped. Her face was pale, and her eyes looked empty, like she wasn't really there. Kemi, what's wrong? She didn't say anything. She just smiled, but it wasn't her usual smile. It was cold and hollow. They're all the same, Chika, she said. All of them. Over time, Kemi learned to laugh about her misadventures in love. She would joke with her friends that she had a married man magnet and that she was considering becoming a nun. But deep down, she still hoped that one day, she'd find someone who was truly available. Someone who wouldn't have a secret wife or hidden children. Until then, She'd keep her radar up and her heart guarded, because if there was one thing Kemi had learned, it was that everywhere is full of married men.